The good and the bad.
So it's kind of an ominous title. So yeah, as he said, I'm Rob Dykeman. I'm from Western University. I am essentially a system admin for hire. We go around and support some of the departments on campus, and I work on a team that does that. One of my projects is our digital signage system. So I'm going to try to be as quick as possible because we're the last presentation of the day, and I know Wade's anxious to get up too. So first, we're just going to go through, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what AxisTV is at Western. Then discuss some of the challenges that we've had with our deployment, what we're doing next, and then there'll be some time for some questions at the end. So, AxisTV at Western. So first of all, the big question is, what is AxisTV? We call it Visix at Western. Visix is the software company that creates AxisTV. And AxisTV is centrally managed digital signage software. It consists of a content manager server that manages not only the content and graphics that go up on all of our screens, but it also manages the users who have access to the content manager software. It can run on either server 2003 or 2008 R2 right now. And then we have channel players, which are just glorified computers that are attached to TV screens all across campus that display the actual content. These are running currently Windows XP embedded or a stripped down version of Windows 7, so Windows 7 Starter. So AxisTV started off in our student rec and Western Retail Services. Student rec used it because they wanted to start streaming TV programs, sports games, Sportsnet, something on their TVs while people are in their cardio theater. And then Western Retail Services used it as a way of doing promotions, ads for their own internal sales and everything like that. So then after that, we started doing a rollout across all of campus as part of our emergency communications plan. So in year one of our project, of our central rollout, we deployed 20 different channel players across campus with about 36 to 40 screens. Year two, we completed an installation in our residences, so added another 6 channel players for each one of our reses. So now that brings us up to about 70 screens across all of Western. And as I said, it is a centrally managed system. So the big advantage is that these TV screens replaced the paper signage that used to litter our walls. It hasn't completely replaced it, obviously, but you know, it has started to replace some of the paper signs. Most of it is because we can use color pictures as opposed to black and white posters that are up. And you can have real-time video. We've even got a couple users that are using a website that they can point to their Twitter feed. So for our fall preview day, it was really great. This faculty used this website and had all of their tweets and everything that the students were mentioning coming up live on the screen. So it's a really great way of getting information out there. We also have built in a real-time flash weather module that sits up in the top right-hand corner of our screens that displays real-time weather and temperature and time with a little picture describing what the weather is. And then at the bottom of our screens, we've got this dynamic news ticker that's actually pulling from Western News, which is our administrative newspaper. AxisTV also allows us to do mass alert mode, which allows emergency communications on campus. The nice thing about our mass alert is that from the time I turn it on, we can push an alert to all the screens on campus, so all 70 screens, within about 15 seconds, which is really great. We've got it customized so that it displays only one of 2 different screens. One is bright red, that obviously is an emergency, and one is a nice color of Western purple, which is just for notifications. So if a parking lot's closed, or if there's flooding on one of our main streets. The other nice thing about Mass Alert is that it prevents users from getting into the system and doing any updates to their own content while we're in an emergency mode. That way the users can't say, I don't want this emergency communication on my screen anymore. I want to have my content back on, thus putting students in jeopardy. So now we're just going to go into some of the challenges that we had with our deployment. There were three main challenges. One of them was the initial sysadmin training. Then we had user training problems, allowing the users to post their own content. We have problems with upgrades. That's one of our big challenges, as well as some of our redundancy issues. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you how we've overcome those. So the sysadmin training, at first, it's not really something that you can learn on your own. When you look at the Visix, the AxisTV system, it is kind of complicated right off the start. There's a lot of different menus, and some of the places that you go to do things is really convoluted. So in order to do that, we've got a package that we purchased from Visix that gave us some online training. And it's great. You sit in a WebEx with a couple of their trainers from Visix, and as long as you can listen to their Georgian accent, then, then it's great training. They take you through everything. They've got time for Q&A at the end. It also introduced us to some of the terminology that's used. So calling the pictures that show up on the screen bulletins, or the news ticker a crawl list, and then there's layouts, and there's a whole different set of terminology with digital signage. They also helped us guide through the menu system so that we knew if I want to add a channel player to our content manager, there is a place that I can go and quickly add that channel player. And then they showed you how to update those settings, so increase resolution or turn on web pages. And then after it was all said and done, it actually turned out that it was designed to be simple to use. It just wasn't. So then one of the other big problems was, how do we train users to add their own content? I don't want to be sitting in front of the computer all day adding content for some of the other users on campus. I'd rather just give them the tools and let them do it themselves. So what we did was we initially preloaded some of their content. We went to each user as they were coming on board, and I said to them, give me some content, give me anything, PowerPoints that you have that advertise things, pictures of some of your old posters. Just give them to me. I'll preload them so that when the screen's put in, you've at least got something there. And then, as we got further along, I started simplifying the training. So instead of showing users the same training that I got, I went through and I directed them, go to PowerPoint, export as PNGs, and go here. Don't go anywhere else, just go here. And then scheduling, it all takes care of itself. It's one screen after another. You upload the content, then it goes right into scheduling, and then the content's live. I also, as we were going through the training, encouraged the users to ask lots of questions. It's always number one. Plus, I gave them contact information from myself and for our Visix support team, which is me, a couple other people from my team, plus our communications and public affairs department, who actually are monitoring some of the graphical standards. Upgrades. This one's kind of a hot button topic for me right now. I'm in the middle of an upgrade that isn't going as well as I'd like it to. So we've just upgraded our main servers to version 8 of the content manager software. We went from version 7 to version 8. And some of the problem is that not all of their documentation was available on the upgrade and what it would break. Now, that was a simple support call to Visix. And they walked through it. We went on GoTo support, and they sat there, and it was 4 or 5 hours that we sat, and they just went through all the features and made sure everything was working properly. But some of the key features that broke was actually our ability to display web pages on our channel players. So that nice Twitter feed that I talked about earlier showed up as a big blue screen, and that was it. And our Flash weather module, which is hosted on our corporate servers, was also a nice blue screen. So some of the fixes for these, we went through and we had to recreate some of our web bulletins, which luckily we only had 8. so it wasn't that long, but it was something that we were able to go through and fix. And Visix support was really helpful in walking us through some of the changes and actually fixing some of the things. And finally, our problem with redundancy. Now, I mean, we're running our Visix server right now on VMware. So we're using virtual slices to do both our production and our development server. And one of the things I always do is I run the upgrade first on dev and then do everything on prod, so that if something does break on dev, I know sort of how to fix it. It still requires a call to Visix to kind of help guide you through it. But as I said, they were really good. So we're using VMware. We store all our virtual disks on our NetApp array in our primary data center, which is then automatically replicated over to our dev data, or our secondary data center. But it also means that if our prod disk goes down, we can be back up in 20 minutes. No, our prod host. If our production host goes down, we can be back up in 20 minutes on the secondary host. However, if the disk goes down, it takes about 2 to 5 hours for us to come back, but at least we'll come back. And finally, what's next? Our future deployment for Visix. So right now in some of our buildings, we have these all-in-one TV screens. So it's got it's like a smart TV with windows built right into the TV screens. We're in the process of upgrading those to AxisTV. And all it is uninstalling the software that's on there and putting Visix on, installing the AxisTV software on the TV screens. We were upgrading our production server to version 8. As I said, that's still an ongoing thing. There's still a couple tweaks that we have to do to get it working properly. As well, we're going to add additional monitoring for the server onto the server using our Nagios product. So we can tell whether the web interface is up, whether the server's up, and whether people can actually talk to it. And then we're also looking at adding monitoring to our existing channel players. Right now, if a channel player goes down, I have no way of telling whether it's down or not. The only way I can tell is either by users calling me or by me going onto the content manager and digging a little bit and then finding out that it's down. So being able to tell whether a channel player is simply off or whether the application is running is something else that we're looking at adding. And that's it. Are there any questions? I'm going to start over here. Yep.
Do you have a suggested limit?
I don't have a limit as to the amount. So the question was, do we have any sort of limits placed on our users as to how much content they can load in terms of how long it takes to go through the entire loop? And the answer, no. What I've done is, instead of giving them a limit on how much content they can put in, I've given them a 15-second, I tell them to put each slide up for 15 seconds. So for instance, in the office of the registrar, they've got maybe 50 or 60 slides. So it takes about an hour to go through their entire presentation, but they liked that because the students could be waiting for an hour to get in to see someone in the registrar's office. So they like having different information going. So that part of it is so that it doesn't get stale. But there are other departments where they've only got 6 or 7 slides. Our help desk is a good example. We only have 6 or 7 slides because there's information on there that we want to constantly drill into the student's head. I'm not entirely sure. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't involved in the initial RFP process. I came into the project after it was chosen. But I know that Student Rec and Western Retail, they did look at quite a bit. Sorry, Jeff? Sorry, Jeff Grieve is my director, and he probably has the answer for that question. Yes. Yeah, we pay a yearly maintenance contract and a yearly support contract, just so that we can continue to get training and upgrades. I'm going to go with you first.
In your future deployment,
yes.
Will that eliminate?
Yes, because with the all-in-one TVs, everything's located inside the actual TV. So all I'm doing is installing the software on the TV. I won't need a channel player for that. I still need to purchase a license for it because part of the expense of the system is purchasing the license for every channel player. So I still have to buy the license. I just don't need to buy the hardware anymore. So it's saving maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000. I'm in the process of testing that right now. I'm going to go to the back.
A few quick questions here.
Sure.
Do you allow students to post videos?
No.
I've heard that other institutions in the US, they do allow it. They have to be pre-screened, of course. And
Students don't have access to this system at all.
okay.
It's only faculty and staff. Now, granted, our University Students Council does have some of their own channel players, but there's staff members that are paid by the university, not by the USC, that are actually doing all the uploading.
Secondly, obviously this initiative involves many players. For example, wasn't clear to me from your presentation, do you allow wayfinding?
No, we don't have wayfinding on the system yet. It is capable of doing maps and wayfinding, and that's something that is being looked into in the future. But right now, no, we're not doing any wayfinding.
Okay, so I guess it was leading to another question. You all say athletics, you want to post sporting announcements.
Yep.
The president's office, if he or she has important announcements for office, etc. What sort of governance do you have over this? Like, do you have an overarching steering committee?
There's not really an overarching steering committee. The way that the content management works, every department has purchased their own or has been given monies to purchase their own channel players, and then they manage the content for themselves. But then there's a mailing list that all the users are a part of, and if they want, say, if the registrar's office has something that they want other departments on campus to display, they send it out to the entire list, and then it's up to that individual administrator whether they want to put it on or not. Does that answer your question? Okay. I'm going to come back over here first.
Yeah, two questions. One is,
It would be.
Places where you have audio and how to manage that.
We,
The other one is,
sure.
What happens when people come to you and say, I want to create?
Okay, so I'll go with your first question. It was videos obviously have sound. And it's nice to have sound with videos. Do you have sound playing on any of your channel players? The answer is no, we don't yet. We're in the process of looking at adding videos because one of the things when we switch into emergency communications mode, we want an alarm to go off. So that's going to be something that each area is going to have to manage themselves, the volumes on their TVs, because some of the TVs are at this level. So the students can reach up and play with the controls on the side. We've actually had them switch the display language from English to Korean or something like that, play around with it. But yeah, right now, no, we don't have any. And in answer to your second question, if someone wants to put a complex animation on the screen or a video of some sort and they don't have the skills to create that themselves, do we have someone they can go to? Absolutely. If anybody has any graphic related questions, designing their own slides, doing videos, doing animations, I refer them down to communications and public affairs and let those guys do that work. They're the experts at it. I'm not even going to touch it. Sorry, Jeff.
Just to add a comment to that, I think Rob's worked through as an organization to manage that.
Yeah.
Like affairs, but they really help us. Rules of the road in terms of content placement.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go back to you.
One more set of a few quick questions. So I think these are just information screens only. Rental properties or things like that.
So first question was, right now we're assuming that the screens are just flat like this, can't touch it, can't do anything with it. do we have any plans to move to touchscreens? And the second question was, before you move to touchscreens, do you plan on doing any sort of information kiosk type application? Answer to your both questions is no. The reason being, we're not doing touchscreens yet, and I don't have any plans on moving. I haven't heard of any plans to move to touchscreens yet. I know that some of our buildings have a wayfinding system with their big honking systems that sit on the floor with maps on them. We're actually not using them as wayfinding anymore. We're using them now in our green initiative, where we're showing energy stats for the whole campus. But it's possible that we might start moving to those once we develop our own wayfinding. But even touch, there's nothing really on the screen that could be touch sensitive. It's pretty much just an image like this, and that's all they see. It does change, but it's not, there's nothing they can interact with. And same thing with the kiosks. I'm gonna go to the back. I haven't heard of any to put any outside, but that's a good idea.
I think we need to move on to the second.
Yeah, I'm around all day. Thank you very much.
Our next presentation is by Wade Hogg and Maria from the Office of the Dean of Science at Carleton University. And their presentation is on science. For things to come are budget extensible digital signage solution.
Do you have a second for? Do you have a second mic for?
So our presentation is slightly different than the previous presentation. This is our solution for digital signage is only within the Faculty of Science, and this started off with our 2 deans ago, my previous bosses from two deans ago, who actually wanted to be able to engage students and faculty by having a better communications with them and look at recruitment and retention. So this is why we looked at a digital signage solution. And at the time, the question was, what should we do for digital signage? And I was tasked with actually coming up with a solution. So we started looking around and see whether we actually want to buy something or build something. So at the time, the university did not have a digital signage solution. This is roughly about 4 years ago. And so at the time, I started asking around to see who were doing digital signage. And I talked to another institution, which was nearby, and they actually were implementing digital signage in one of the faculties. And so I called them up and asked them, so how did you find your solution? And it was a hosted solution. Basically, rather than having the digital signage content hosted locally, it was hosted offsite. You buy viewers, and basically you manage your content essentially in a cloud or through a commercial provider, and much similar to the solution that was presented by Rob, but it was actually hosted offsite. And the problem with that was we didn't want to have recurring costs, and we didn't want to. And the advice we were provided by the institution I was speaking to said they had invested in putting a lot of screens up, much more than we had time to put up, and they said it's fairly expensive, and they were looking at other solutions after having it up for a few years. And so that's why we decided at that time that we needed to probably look at an in-house solution. And so some of the principles that we wanted to look at for in-house was we wanted to write once in some content management system, but publish everywhere. We wanted to be scalable. We wanted to be energy efficient. And of course, we wanted to be budget conscious. And one of the design decisions we wanted was that, well, we really wanted to be web-based. And because at that time we were also developing our own in-house content management system, not our in-house content management system, but putting out a content management system for the Faculty of Science. And so we wanted to interface to that. And so we looked at first we looked at hardware solutions. We looked at possibility of buying web-based TVs, and at the time we really didn't think that the web-based TVs would go forward in the future, because if we were developing for the web, we had different features that different standards that involved. It wasn't clear that the browsers that were built into the web TVs or TVs with web browsers would scale that well. So we opted for looking at thin clients to actually. Could you go back to the previous slide? So basically, we built our own content management distribution network, and we used Sunrays, which are thin clients. And at the time, we were debating about thin clients, and maybe we can go forward and come back to this one.
Sure.
So we debated going to using thin clients, and we were familiar with Sunrays at the time because we had a fair amount of them deployed in the Faculty of Science. And so basically, most people are familiar with thin clients. They're highly energy efficient. Like the Sunrays only consumes 3 watts of power. And everyone knows that DTUs are basically on client server architecture, and most of the computing is on the server side. And all we need to do is focus on the input between the user and the remote server. And we looked at thick clients and quickly decided that we didn't want to do that. We thought of things like using a Mac Mini because we wanted to mount it in the back of the device. Of course, it'll have better multimedia performance, provide greater flexibility, and probably have better peripheral support. But we decided to look at what we really want to convey off of our digital signage system, and that was basically sending messages and notifications of events to students. So hence the title of signs for things to come. So we were basically looking at advertise events, deadlines, for example, inform students when a certain seminar is happening or when they had to submit a certain paper or something like that. And so if you can go back to the previous slide. So we ended up coming up with our in-house solution. We bought our own TVs and had them installed. So, and basically we had thin clients mounted on the back of them. And we built a private network which basically connected the Sunrays into our Sunray server, which we also had a web and database server for our content management system. Originally, we were looking at the time, because we were developing with Drupal, there was a project under Drupal to develop a content management, digital signage solution. and that project's never really ever took off. So we decided at that time to actually create just HTML pages, which had the ability where we can just import a text file to update messages that we would convey for events and other things. So basically, anyone can basically submit content from any application into the content management system, and then we would display on either, so because it's web-based, people can view it on their desktops through the displays off of thin client or anywhere. So it took a, yeah, I mentioned that so Sunrays were about $250 a piece because the Sunray software, which was bundled with them, and we really didn't really needed to actually upgrade the Sunray software that often. So from the display perspective on the TVs, we actually used the Opera browser because we wanted to undecorate the whole display. And at the time, we also thought of using the Opera widgets, which would provide you nice weather apps and other apps. And then we thought, at the time, we actually designed the screens to do some of that, and it became too cluttered. And so we decided that we need to clean up the display, and we opted not to do that. And one of the advice that the people that I talked to at the other institution about their displays, because their psychology department actually put gaze detectors on the displays to see where people actually look on the screens. And so most of the time, people looked at what the time was. That's what their psychologists actually discovered from their experiments. So with respect to the sun rays, they're centrally controlled. And going back, we can also, because there's management software for the sun rays, we can actually detect what the state of each displays are, whether they're down or not. So for example, we can, next slide. So these are actually the displays. So I have one on my desktop that I can actually see what's going on, and we have 5 displays. In fact, this time we actually have more now. Continue. And so we can monitor. Yeah. So we have the MAC addresses of all of them. So we can identify exactly what the DTUs are doing through this Sunray administration interface. And so basically, to actually display, we just run an Opera browser. I just have a script that runs in an undecorated, in a started Opera browser with any of these web pages. So right now we're consistently running the same display on the different screens, but we can run any web page on any screen at any time. So one of the thoughts was for emergency notification, we can just add another display and we can just convert that very quickly. So after we actually implement our system, so I mentioned earlier whether we would go with a built-in browser or not, and we would just go with regular TVs with the thin clients. So I think what really changed is that after a few years of just originally doing pure HTML and then also writing a PHP app for it, we actually finally decided to write our own content management system in Drupal. And this is where Uremia, our student developer, actually has started working on the content management system, which we rolled out about 1.5 years ago. And so our communications officer is actually the responsible for the content. And so leave that to you.
Thank you. I was responsible for the front end and the back end. So the back end was the content management, so the data that was involved, and the UI design, which is the front end of both the administrator's user interface and the display layout. For the content management system, the original design was we used PHP, MySQL, and RSS to manage the newsfeed data, and we use Ajax and JavaScript on a simple HTML page to cycle through the various elements. But the latest and next generation, we are going to be using Drupal, or we are using Drupal as a content management system, which provides us with a lot of benefits. For example, improved UI. We are looking into integrating our display system with existing Drupal-based websites, so it's following along with the line of publish once or write once, publish everywhere. We have a better handling of images, so our graphics at the bottom, you will see in the next couple slides, can be uploaded through the web browser versus an FTP client or something like that. It's open source, so minimal cost, and finally it's extensible and easy to customize, so different departments might have different needs. We can customize a solution for that need. Next, I covered the UI design, and the core fundamental for the UI design is to present the data to the respective user in a manner that is meaningful. In this, we have to answer the what. So what do we want to present? For our display, we decided to display a news feed, a date and time, and promotional graphics for the department or unit. The who. For this, we really had to think about who's going to be watching, or who's our audience, and also who will be using the system on the back end. And that's something we really had to think about, and we found that a lot of the administrators are not technically inclined. So in designing the backend UI, we tried to make it as simple for them and as easy to use so that they can go in, do what they need to do, and then move on. And finally, where and how. Where are our displays going to be posted, and how are people going to use them, or in what circumstances will they see them? So in that, we analyzed approximately what the use case would be, and we designed a front end or the display accordingly. So we determined that we need to be very efficient in our communication and also make it simple so people can just at a glance look at it, use it, and get the information they need. So this is our this is our latest generation. We're working on a new generation, but this is our latest generation. As you can see, we have a news feed which rotates, our date and time, and our infographic, which this is a generic infographic. We can also specialize it for the holidays. We can advertise events, and we can even put special messages out to students. So for our administrators interface, this is our current generation that's running on the Science system. When a user logs in, they're presented with this interface. So in this, they can work on the bottom graphics, which allows them to add a new graphic or change the graphic. Work on news stories, so they can actually, we have an approval system, so they can put a draft up, or they can write a new story, or take down items. And then the preview display, which they can click, and it'll show them a preview of the live display. This is our managed graphics. Basically, this interface allows users to look at what graphics are available and to post the graphics online. They can just click on it, and it'll change and notify them that it is online. If they select multiple graphics, then the graphics are preset to cycle. And then there's an add button there, so they can add the graphic, add a new graphic. Here's our managed story user interface. It shows what stories are pending approval, what stories are live, and then they can add new stories. This is our create news content. Pretty simple. They have a headline, a story body, and an approval system. So we have time for a live demo. Yep, okay. So live demo. So this is our system. Users will go to this system, and I've created a CanHide account. So when they log in, they're presented with this system. From here, they can create a news story, or they can look at various news stories. Oh, okay, maybe I don't have access there. But I'm not actually going to create one because this is actually live. So it's not going to be too happy.
Welcome to CanHide at Carleton.
But they can create a headline. Oh, actually, I can create one, but I'll make it pending approval, so it's not approved. So as you can see, it goes up. We can go back to the main menu. This is actually quite interesting. These are all the existing graphics. Whatever says post display means it's not live. If you want to post it, you just click it, and now it's live. So now these three graphics are live. So that's kind of easy to do and pretty easy to customize on the go. And then our preview display. So that's our preview display. Pretty simple. Let me log out. So So for the future, we're looking at right now I'm in current design, in the current design phase in developing the next generation for this system. We're looking at usability improvements for the UI. We want to implement an emergency notification system so that we can actually communicate to students important information regarding events or as such. We want to integrate with the existing web structure. We started that on this current generation, but we haven't quite completed that yet. So we're looking at that. And we're also looking at interdepartmental and unit content sharing. So say we're in the Faculty of Science, say if there's a Department of Earth Science wants to publish a story on our displays, we would allow them to publish it. It would actually go into a approval pending, and then our admin would actually get a notification that there's a new story pending, and they can approve it or modify it and then approve it. And finally, we want it to be a bit more mobile, so we want to cater to the mobile users so they can update the displays on the go. And I think this is Wade.
I should also mention that we have a display in each of the science buildings in the main lobby or in a high traffic area. We also now support a display for our sciences department, and they actually want to display live geographical data like seismic data. So that's one of the things that we're looking at in integrating into the content management system. And we also have a engineering department that also we've created an instance of this content management system for them because they also wanted to use wanted a better management of their displays. Because they basically had a TV with PowerPoint rotating, so we gave them that option. So one of the premises that we didn't want to have recurring costs, but we did have an unexpected cost. So these TVs which we have, which are Samsung TVs, the fans go out on them after a year or a bit because they're on 24/7 and they wear down. And so although the replacement fans are only $20, because we mount these TVs up in high areas so people can't touch them, it costs us close to $300 every time to swap out the fan. So that was our unexpected cost. So maybe in the future, when we actually get new LED TVs, we probably won't have that issue. But so so basically our system has been working fairly well for the last 4 years, and this is the additional cost which we didn't expect to have. So that's it.
Yep. I guess if you have any questions, you can field those. Yeah, you in the back.
Drupal module now, is there stuff moving to Drupal module?
Repeat the question.
The question was, is there now a Drupal module? I've seen some development of it. I haven't.
He's asking
Is it a module? It's actually reusing several modules actually. So we're actually just using the integrated modules such as views, and basically I think for Drupal, we're running Drupal 6, we're using just a content type CCK, and it's just a simple, I guess it's a simple content type or a node. So there's not really an integrated module per se, or there's not really a custom module that we have written. So essentially it functions as a website.
Did you look at Zybo at all?
No, actually, we haven't.
Oh, the question was whether we looked at Signage.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah.
The fans that burned out on the displays, are those like commercial digital display boards, or are they sort of consumer TVs? No,
these are actually professional type monitors. These are Samsungs. So as it turns out, the university subsequently had moved towards a paid solution for their signage system that's used throughout campus, and they bought similar TVs, and they now run into the same problem.
We ran NEC displays at our school. We have a very few number of displays, but we had NEC commercial displays, and they've been great.
Yeah.
We had some dimming of displays in certain areas.
Oh, we haven't had that after 4 years, even though these are on basically 24/7. But it's the fans, the TV still work, but we get this annoying blue box that says fan cooling system is down. So. Or did anyone have more questions for Rob?
One thing to know, we are using LG TVs. We have plasma and LCD TVs. that we're using right now are bigger 16-inch TVs or plasmas, right? And we have to go around and do burn-in reduction on them every once in a while because our background is static. The template that we are using is static and it's white. So if we change that, we get a nice shadow on the background.
I think we also shift the display slightly, quite frequently.
Well, I can also be able to show everybody the Visix, our Visix system. I can show everybody what we've done so far, if you want to afterwards.
Question. So, you have the internal channels somehow.
They're called channel players, but they're actually just computers. That's the name that AxisTV, the Visix is giving them. All they are is you could take